Okay, let me get something to drink for this one. Welcome to the first encounter on the Enkounters. As I mentioned before, I'll be sharing stories that are special to me, that hold a special place in my memory. And I'm going to try to get back into the emotion of the time so you can really feel what I felt then. So let's see how good my storytelling skills are. Okay, so this is not chronological. I'm not starting from birth. I'm literally just going from a vibe. And so for this first video, I'll be sharing a story or an encounter about the first time that I really left home. Was away from home for an extended period of time, and what that experience was like. And so I'm going to give a little backstory to that time. I'm not going too far back, but I'm going to tell a piece of the story that's very important. So the time period is basically when I went off to university. I did go to a girls' boarding school. That's a story for another time. And boarded periodically. But I consider my university days as my first real time away from home, extended time, because that was 3 years worth of living on dorm and living away from home, which would have been the longest stint or longest period that I was finally out of home. And then since then, pretty much never went back, except just for holidays and things like that. So the year I went off to university, there's something very special about that year because it was also the summer of the Big Chop. And at the time when I did the Big Chop, it wasn't popular. I don't think it wasn't on trend. It wasn't cool. For the most part, sisters were still rocking relaxed hair or wave nouveau, jerry curls, braids. And so I didn't do my Big Chop out of, some trend. It was literally, I was home for the summer and I had hair damage because I had relaxed hair and it got damaged. It was thinning out, I just couldn't make it what I wanted it to be. It didn't look bouncy, it didn't look attractive, it didn't look appealing. And I was just, summer was hot, basically. Summer was hot and it was boring. And it was like, it almost felt like my life is about to change because I know I'm going to university. And I guess maybe some of what I was feeling was coming from that. I knew that was going to be a big chapter. I would be far away from home. I mean, that time there was no toll between country and Kingston, and so it was a 4-hour drive through Fern Gully, Sagoville. Sorry, tell me what the name of the places again. Flatbridge. It was a 4-hour drive over Flatbridge to get to Kingston. A long drive. And depending on who it is, it could be a 5-hour drive. And not to mention if you pencil in stops. I digress. So basically, I knew it was a big move. It was a big jump. It was a start of basically adult life. No more high school. And leading up to that period, you just follow that trajectory. You go to school, primary school, prep school, you do your common entrance, you go to a good high school, then you do your CXC, and then after that things get complicated. Because yes, you want to get into a good university, whether it's UE or UTech or Teachers College or whatever the case may be. You want to get into a good school, and then after that, people basically branch off. After the 3 years and you get your degree or whatever it is, then we'll talk about adulting. We're talking about, there's no trajectory, there's no safe path going along the same road as your peers. you better know what you're going to do in life. And so I kind of understood that this was the beginning of that. Like, this was probably the last of moving along in the same direction as peers. And so, yeah, I don't know. Somehow my hair bore the brunt of the frustration. And I just remember it was just a hot summer. It was all of those things, just coming. Oh, I skipped out something very important. How I jumped straight from high school to university. So after high school, I went to community college. And after community college, I did Cape. That's when, after Cape, I knew I was going to University of the West Indies. So, yes. So, that summer, it was like, finally, no more exams like that to study for. There's a break, but then there's something bigger coming on the other side of it. So I guess in that waiting period, in that 3 months of summer, I must have been just so bored, and also, a bit of, I don't like that A word, so I'm not going to use it. A bit of knowing that something big is on the horizon. Yes. So my hair bore the brunt of the frustration, and I was like, I don't want this thing. I don't want this hair anymore. This hair has to go. And so I kept complaining to my mom, and I was telling her, I'm going to cut off this hair because it's bothering me. It's not looking like what it's supposed to look like. And then I was annoying her with the same thing of my hair, and I'm going to cut it. And like, my mother just fed up with me, and she was just like, all right, I'm going to cut it for you, just to, get me to stop going on and on about it. But she didn't mean it. So when the time came now, and I was in her skin for her to cut the hair, she never intended to cut the hair. And so that just even added to my frustration. And then when everyone was gone to bed, I got out a scissors. I think I started with a scissors, a big scissors, and I started just cutting in the mirror, cutting, and it was so emotional because I remember I was crying too. But I'm like, I started this thing, I'm going to finish it. I cut my hair myself in the mirror, and then at the end of it, I'm like, but I look like Shaka Zulu. And I can't go anywhere looking like this. Right? And I think at that time, nobody caught wind of what I had done. And I'm like, okay, I have to fix this. So I went and I got my father's shear. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go as bald as possible. I'm not going to try to leave anything on or try to be professional or have a teeny afro or anything. I'm just going to bald it off. And I took my father's shear, and I just started shearing until, as much of it was gone. But of course, that's not how shear works. If any of you know anything about cutting hair and barbering, you have to have the right gauge to get it clean, to get actually a clean shave. And I just took it up with whatever blade was on it, and so I couldn't get it low enough. So basically, by the time I was done, it had the pitchy patchy all over it, looking like somebody throw acid in there or something. Junk or jar breaks. It looked like the junker was doing all kind of things in there and never completely clean up the head top. So by the time my mother caught wind of what I had done now, it was in that pitchy patchy, junker head looking stage. And she was so shocked, she couldn't believe I actually went through it and actually did it. And so word started to spread, like, I guess amongst my sisters, whoever was still awake. I don't even know who was awake, to be honest. And I don't even remember who found out that night and who found out the morning. But basically, I remember my father was the last to know. And so in the meantime, I was like, this is so hideous. I can't go anywhere looking like this. So I just got a head tie, and I tie up my head. So I said, all right, this is going to be the summer of the head tie. I'm just going to rock head tie around the house. And eventually, I guess my mother told my father that I had cut off my hair.
So what did your mom say when she found out that you cut the hair?
She was amused. No, at the night when she found out, she was amused. Like, she was like, you really do it? And then when she actually saw, because my mother take bad things make joke all the time. She was that type of person. So when she saw even the job that I did with it, she was tickled. First, she was like shocked that I actually did it, and then it went into humor. And it just became the laughing stock of the house, basically. Say, Marie, go cut off here, and it looked like, as you said, Junker Jar bricks. So when my father got wind of it, he didn't see it because I wouldn't allow anyone to see it. He immediately bought 2 straw hats I can never forget. One white and one black in Ocho Rios, and he was like, well, she don't have no hair, and me here how it stays. So basically, him just going to get these, he just got into problem solving mode, got these 2 hats. And I remember that summer clearly because I had, even though it seemed like it was going to be a boring summer, I still had things like summer camp where I had to be around other kids my age. And my plan was, okay, I get this hat, praise the Lord, I'm just going to rock these hats at summer camp. Or anywhere I had to go, church, if I had to go on the road, supermarket, any errand I had to go run, I would wear these hats. And basically, that was the plan until it became a problem, like going around in these head ties and these hats. And then when I was at summer camp, you had kids who would try to pull off the hat and expose what was under the hat and things like that. And then I said, no, I'm not gonna be wrestling with people. So I think by the time I started university, I just decided this is the bald head. This is the way I'm going with the bald head. Yeah, I don't even think at that stage I had gotten like a professional barber to line it up. I think maybe a family member had cleaned it up better for me, but it wasn't like lined up, so it never even looked like a professional low trim, like a man cut or anything. By the time I started university, so I started with this bald head. And I remember thinking that I was going to be judged because of the bald head. And then I also remember thinking, I don't even care because like I don't even know these people. They're going to be strangers. It's not like they knew me with hair. So there's just something so freeing about when you cut off your hair and you're rocking bald head. It's just, okay, what can you do to me now? I've already done the worst. I cut off my hair. So in a sense, it allowed me to start university authentic, like as my authentic self. I didn't need a representative. I wasn't hiding behind any hairstyle or any hairdo. It was just, this is me. You either like me or you don't like me. And honestly, I think the bald head made me very approachable, because I quickly made friends with the people who I lived with on my flat, and we were good friends right throughout the period that we were studying together. And I guess it made me approachable because we used to run jokes all the time, and it wasn't a thing, because as I said, they didn't know me with hair. So it was all good times and good vibes. Even though I started university with a big chop and a bald head, yeah, it was after all the best decision, the best thing I could have done. And so that's an encounter, a story. I know this was supposed to be a story about the time I started university, but I think I had to start with the big chop, and I had to start with that emotion. And I think what I took from that whole ordeal of, the big chop and, all these emotions around my hair is that it eventually was a very freeing thing. And for anybody who's ever, done a big chop or cut your hair, how they always say, a woman is, or a girl is going for a big change in her life when she cuts her hair, it's a big start. And it was for me because those 3 years at university, were some of the best years in terms of, the people I met, the experiences I had, and for the first time not feeling as self-conscious as I had felt previously in life. It's just like, this is me, this is who I am. Whoever likes me, I like you. And it just so happened that it was just, for the most part, good energy all around. and I really enjoyed my university years. And it all started with me cutting my hair or Jonko drawing breaks in my hair. So I hope you enjoyed this little story, this little encounter. Of course, I'm going to be sharing more stories about my university encounters, other experiences I've had along the way that were special to me, and I hope you stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.